Hello, and welcome to Reimagining Love. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I have been studying relationships for over 20 years as a couples therapist, a professor, an award-winning author, and as a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. Now, I'm inviting you into this space each week as I dig into some of the toughest and most fascinating relational dilemmas of our time. If you want to discover how to create vibrant and loving relationships in your own life, you have come to the right place. This is Reimagining Love. Hi there. Welcome back to Reimagining Love. First of all, Happy New Year. And in the spirit of perhaps inspiring some healthy 2026 habits, our first guests of the new year are Suzanne and Russell Warye. And today we're talking all about sobriety and its impact on relationships. Suzanne Warye is a sobriety influencer. She's the podcast host of The Sober Mom Life, and she's the author of the book, The Sober Shift. She's joining me with her husband, Russell, to talk about the role that alcohol played for them at various stages of their lives and their journey toward sobriety. You're going to hear us talk about the trouble with approaching alcohol with a mindset of moderation. You'll hear us talk about how shame becomes entwined with alcohol use and how sobriety clears the landing for self-compassion and worthiness. You're also going to hear about how their sobriety journeys have impacted their marriage, both when Suzanne pursued sobriety first, and then years later, when Russell followed suit. In our recent episode called I Think I've Outgrown My Relationship, I considered the ramifications on a relationship when one partner pursues a big personal change of some kind. And so I love that this conversation ends up being a perfect case study for how we can successfully evolve or transform within our existing intimate partnership. I'm very grateful to Suzanne and Russell for being so open with us about their sobriety journey together. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Suzanne and Russell Warye. Well, Suzanne and Russell, thank you so much for joining me here today on Reimagining Love. It's great to see you both.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Suzanne and I, well, the three of us have something in common, which is that we all live here on the North Shore of Chicago. And then Suzanne and I were introed through our shared publicist. Shout out to K Publicity, who I've been with
Yay.
for a million years. Suzanne is the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we love them.
Yes.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. They're wonderful. And we're doing what we call a pod swap. So you're visiting my house now, and then I'm going to come visit you in your house. So,
which we should actually do since we're right down the road from each other. I wish we could actually do that.
That's so true. That's so true. Well, I've got a bunch I want to explore with you, but let's start with the question that I ask all of our guests. Are you ready?
Ready.
Suzanne and Russell, how are you each reimagining love in one of your important relationships these days?
I love this question. Honey, I'll go first, okay?
Okay.
You know, for me, since my sobriety is front and center lately, I mean, it kind of always is, but especially with the book just coming out, I've really been thinking about how my sobriety is a way for me to fall in love with myself again and show myself unconditional love. And it's been so healing for me, just as a kid who grew up feeling, like she was too much and not enough at the same time. And being able to really bring her along with me on this journey and sharing our sobriety. And that's what it is for me, really, as a sobriety is a way that I can show myself love and that I'm worthwhile and valuable and always was and didn't need anything more. So I think that's been, yeah, that's how it's been happening for me.
That's so powerful. It's so powerful. I think that we so often think of alcohol as a nice thing we do for ourselves to relax, to reward ourselves for a hard day's work. And what you are saying is that actually letting go of alcohol was an act of love to yourself and something that deepened your love of yourself.
Yeah, and really saying you didn't need that. You didn't need that to be more. You didn't need it to be, accepted or for connection, to belong, to be valuable, to be better, to be faster, to be more beautiful. All of the things that we're told about alcohol, right? That we need this thing that's outside of ourselves to be better. And really, by removing that one thing, I'm able to say to myself, like, you're okay. You always were okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so really just feeling that it's such an act of love for me.
Russell, well, before you share yours, I would love if you have any thoughts or comments on what Suzanne just shared. What's that like for you to hear her share that?
Well, I've heard her share things with me in a number of ways and how
Mm-hmm.
this has impacted her and how she reimagines things. And, our bond is a big part of that. I think we're definitely closer because of it. But for me, like one of the biggest things, because when you remove alcohol, you feel all the feels, you know what I mean? You can't really numb stuff. And so like patience is a big part of and remember, this just came to me like 2 minutes ago because you just asked me if I was ready
Okay,
to
so,
talk
so
about
now
this.
you're asking. So you're no longer responding to Suzanne. This is just you, Russell,
100%
taking the
me,
floor.
like,
How is Russell?
yeah,
Russell, how are you reimagining love in one of your
yeah.
important relationships these days?
I appreciate you allowing me the leeway to get to myself here. And it's about like patience for sure. And I think patience with myself in the way that giving me the room to, maybe feel frustrated about things that I hadn't thought about before, and acceptance on some of those feelings that I have, and acceptance of others and stuff that I'm feeling that might be different than I used to feel. There's just a lot that comes up and you just sort of work your way through it. And there's definitely a sense of maturity that comes out of the whole thing.
Hmm.
Here's one thing that I think most people don't think about too in their relationship with alcohol is sometimes alcohol gives you confidence, right, in scenarios. But when you take that away, you have to relearn the confidence in yourself and not rely on a substance to give you that confidence. And that took me a while in certain scenarios where maybe I used to lean into it, but it's all good. It's all part of the growing process.
Well, and what I hear you say is that there's like a level of appreciation that you have for Suzanne. So one thing that our listeners need to know is that Suzanne, you let go of alcohol 5
Yeah, 5.5
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5.5 years ago.
And then Russell, you're a bit newer and a year and a half into your journey. Is that right, Russell?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is that you really appreciate that there's been a kind of patience you have felt from Suzanne as you reckon with a lot of different emotional experiences that have been coming up inside of you.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. Thank
Uh-huh.
you for taking my words and sharing them back with me. But yeah, totally. Patience in
Hmm.
my wife, but also patience on my end.
On your end
With,
too.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
with
In your
how I
relationship with
feel
yourself.
about things, right? And allowing things to unfold and being patient with it rather than maybe reacting.
And that doesn't start on day one.
No. And when you have 3 kids, and I'm not speaking right now specifically about Susan and I'm just saying in general in life and imagining my relationships, not necessarily love per se, because the love between us is always there. That's foundational. You know what I mean? That's a core part of our bond. I don't know that alcohol changed my love for my wife. Definitely an appreciation for her ability and her grit and her fortitude to do what she wanted to do when maybe it was not, not what everybody expected her to do.
can we back up a little bit and start by having each of you kind of like locate the two of you, like a little bit about your background and your marriage. And then I want to hear a little, more about each of your journeys with alcohol. So who are you, Suzanne and Russell?
Oh, who are we, honey? This is interesting because we've definitely answered this question individually, but I like this thing of like, who are we as a couple? Because that's something different, right? That's something different than who we are individually. And so who we are as a couple, we've been married for, okay, math, 12 and a half years, honey?
Sounds about right.
I think
Yeah.
So, and one thing that's, I think, different about us, so we met, I was 30 and he was 44. And so he's 14 years older than I am, which was, I had never, dated anybody that much older than me. And so that's been I think that's an interesting, I don't know, it's an interesting dynamic that I love. We have 3 kids. They're 11, 8, and 6. And yeah, so we're in it. We're definitely in it. We got married, I was 33. He was 46. Yeah.
6, I think.
Yeah.
7.
And because
6,
of that,
yeah.
we had kids pretty much right away. Right?
Mhm.
Which
That makes
we were
sense.
like, okay,
Yeah.
let's just get this going. And so we know each other really well as parents. And so, but we're also looking forward to, I think, when it's just us, because we didn't have a lot of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple years, but then right away we got into buying a big home, moving to a new neighborhood, building a family.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot happened.
Yeah. There's different, you're speaking my language because my husband and I are, well, I keep saying we're new empty nesters, but we really aren't new. We're starting year 3 of it. And I think there's so many different journeys into empty nesting, right? So for the two of you, it'll be, for Todd and I, it's very much like a reclamation of our early chapters. But for the two of you, it'll be a little bit more discovery.
Yeah.
You had a little peek of it before you started bringing these little ones into the world, but it'll be a little more of a discovery.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And, when we were dating and early married, we were drinking, right? And we were probably drinking a lot, like with the dating and the lubrication of it, right? And so, we don't have that. We don't have that time of just like sobriety, just us, which we do when we go on vacation together and we try to do that. But so I'm looking forward to that too, because it'll really be a sense of discovery of, oh my gosh, we get to do this without alcohol now.
Mm-hmm. Will you talk to us a little bit about each of your respective relationships with alcohol?
Honey, you want to go first?
Sure. Just trying to remember it.
Your ex. You're remembering your ex, right?
No, we're still pals. We're still pals. I look at it from afar and I wave, but I mean, we know where we're at. I'm pretty much done. I can't, I'm never going to say no to anything, but I just have zero interest in picking up a drink again. Life is better. I feel better. I make very few mistakes now. I argue less. I have more patience and love, and that's the bottom line. That's where I need to be mentally right now, grounded with my family, with my friends, with my business. So that's where I'm at with alcohol. But I will tell you that we had a great, wild time when I was younger. And I was just recollecting back on some of the fun the other day, but I was also at the same time came a flood of memories of mistakes, regrets, wish I hadn't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm not speaking to relationships. I'm just speaking to decisions and, sure, maybe a couple relationships too, things that I would have been a better man with had I not had alcohol in my system,
Yeah. Yeah, where that something played out in the way that it did because alcohol was in the equation.
Was involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember listening to a podcast about sobriety. I don't remember who it was who was speaking about the dignity of waking up, knowing that everything that had happened the day before was your choices, right? To the dignity of waking up with no regrets.
Ooh.
A gift that you give to yourself.
And it never gets old.
No.
You're never, like the gratitude of that. I think, and the peace that comes from that. Saying like, I am consistently me, no matter the time, no matter the place, no matter the company. It's unparalleled, really. Like a glass of wine can't even compare to waking up in peace, I think.
Suzanne, what was your journey like? Or your relationship like with this ex of yours?
Yeah. We had a long run. Growing up as a kid in the 90s, I really leaned into binge drinking. And I grew up, I'm a Gen Xer. So it was, this is your brain on drugs, but alcohol, yeah, green lights, right? No issue. And so in college, binge drinking, that really continued into my 20s. And there wasn't anyone saying like, whoa, you're drinking, because we were all drinking like that. I wasn't the only one. Still, shame and alcohol always went hand in hand with me. And my story is, when we talked at the top about me being able to reimagine my relationship with myself and what that means. And a lot of my alcohol stories from my 20s involve, you know, one night stands or men I would never have, went home with, didn't know, waking up with strangers, because it was this kind of need for validation and to say like, hey, do you choose me? Like, am I worthy? And alcohol was a way that I was able to do that. And
Wait,
so
pause. What'd you just say? That's news to me.
what
Oh.
No, I'm
what's new?
kidding. I'm kidding, Mary.
Oh, I was like,
You did not
that's
even
like
think she
Trying
had
to add some levity
kissed.
because that didn't sound
yeah,
good.
That's right. That's right. You didn't even know she had kissed a boy before you. My
yeah, exactly.
goodness.
Exactly.
Ugh,
Um,
revelations left and right.
yeah.
Funny. Oh my God.
What? That's in the book.
Lord knows I was well behaved.
Yeah, you got
Yeah,
none of
right.
that.
No
None of
skeletons
you, no,
there.
nothing going
Yeah,
on.
but there was so much shame,
Yeah.
right? Even like the walk of shame, right? That was a well-worn phrase for the woman, for the girl, for what we were doing. Like there was no shame for him laying in his bed, but the shame was reserved for me. And so there's so much shame there. And so that obviously my habits changed and my drinking changed in my 30s. I met Russell and we got married. And then I was really like bound and determined to drink, like an adult. Like now.
But then there's an entire world waiting for you there, right? It's not like it's an
Totally.
alcohol-free world. Now it's mommy, like it's
Yes.
mommy's whatever, the mommy juice or it's
Mommy
the
needs wine,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
now it's like, well, now I'm going to class it up and it's no longer going to be like shots of Goldschlager. It's going to be red wine, and never thinking that it's an option not to drink. And I really like nailed moderation. I think that that's what I try to convey in the book is that the binge drinking days were over, nailing moderation, but man, that shame was still the same. And the energy it took and the willpower and the controlling a highly uncontrollable substance and when my guard was down, right? And that was my last night of drinking. Yeah, alcohol did its thing. And so when I quit drinking, I wasn't actively addicted. It wasn't like
Mhm.
an intervention. It
Mhm.
was nothing
Mhm.
like that.
It wasn't 30 days in an inpatient program. And
No,
was
it
it
wasn't a forced decision upon me. Like it was more people being like, "Really?
yeah,
Why?"
you don't have a problem.
Yeah, like, "What?"
I wanted to ask you if it was for you a kind of growing awareness, like kind of in the corner of the room, getting a little bigger, or whether it was an alarm clock moment for you
Mm.
when you decided to let go.
It was more of like mold in the basement. I was just shoving down my doubts, my fears about my drinking, all of the stories that I just told you about with strange men or just like drinking, like things that I had done when I was drinking, like just really shoving it down, not looking at it. And it was kind of like it just hit me over the head then the morning after my last drink on January 19th, 2020. And it hit me that I nursed my baby in a blackout. after we went to a fancy party, and I came home and woke up at like 9 a.m., which is insane when you have a 3-month-old, right? And then when that hit me, it kind of then just hit me over the head of like, oh, this is going to catch up to me eventually. Maybe this mold is threatening the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't like sober curious leading up to it. It was really like, do not talk about it. Do not think about it. Just keep this thing on. Just keep going. Just keep trying out a better way to drink.
Huh.
Drinking them, right? And
Yeah.
and then it was like this piercing moment of clarity.
Yeah.
And then the questions and the spirals. But it was just that piercing moment of clarity that I continued to come back to.
Your questions or other people's
Oh,
questions?
yes.
All of it.
Everybody, right? Mostly my questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you didn't put it out in the beginning, right? You only put it out there in the beginning to me, really.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I only said it to you.
Mm-hmm. And what did you say, Russell, when she brought it to you that morning
Yeah.
after
Well,
the
I just
fancy
figured
party?
she was hurt. She was hurting, and I could clearly see that. And I was like, okay, babe. And then time went on, and 1 day, 2 days, that doesn't mean anything. But when she was up every morning motivated, I could tell that she was driven by something, and then she was listening to books on it and talking to me about it. That I could tell that she was serious, and I was 100% behind her. Like, listen, I'm all about health and fitness too, so it wasn't going to be a bad thing. I knew that if she stuck with it.
So yeah, Suzanne, for you, the decision was first before the
Yes.
learning and the exploring.
Right.
Totally.
Hmm.
It was deciding, and then it was deciding to like jump and just being like, dude, I hope something catches me because I'm doing this and I have no idea what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I so many questions. I have OCD, so my brain can get in the way of a lot. And so I really just kept coming back to the moment that I knew I was done. Like just keep coming back to that. And then the questions, we'll figure those out later. Like maybe I don't have to answer those today. And then I was like on a quest.
What were some of your questions?
Oh, am I an alcoholic?
Uh-huh.
Do I have to go to AA?
Mm-hmm.
But was I really that bad? Is this forever? You mean I'm never drinking again? Am I going to be left out? What about my husband? Right? Like, is he
What
going to
about your
quit drinking?
friends? Yeah.
Yeah. What
Everything.
about my friends? Am I gonna be alone now forever? So many, and all based in fear and not knowing.
And those are questions for which there are very few easy, obvious, stamped in stone answers. But what I
Right.
hear you could come back to again and again was the decision, was that felt sense of actually this is over.
Yes. And the one question that I knew, like without a doubt, was, do I want to feel like this ever again? This moment of not only physically feeling awful, but knowing what I had done and not being able to remember it, right? And I could picture myself, walking to his crib, picking him up, and I'm drunk and I'm out of my mind. Do I want to feel this again? And no. And I will do everything in my power to make that true, that I'm done, right? And so then it really was just coming back to that over and over, like putting myself on that couch, just thinking about myself there constantly in probably that first year.
Which is, it feels like a very slippery slope because baked in that memory is some shame. It must have been also that you were leveraging that memory to say, I can take care of myself in such a way that I can protect myself from ever feeling that way again. So it feels like it's this it's a really complicated knot of there's shame in the memory and there's love in the protection of oneself to not experience that again.
And that's the antidote to shame, right? Is the compassion, is to be able to say, that wasn't you. And I got there. I didn't get there that day, right? But like my sobriety did require me to lock eyes with my shame, and especially that moment, and to say, okay, hold on. Because of course I was like steeped in shame that morning of like, how could you? What is wrong with you? You're a bad mom, right? All of the lies that shame tells us. And I write about that and I can speak about it now without feeling shame. I feel regret, of course, and guilt, right? Like that wasn't great. That was not good. But I know that that wasn't me as a mom. I know that that was me under the influence of something that changed my brain. And so that knot that you're talking about really like started to untangle as I really went through to be like, okay, just let me learn what alcohol is, first of all, and like what it's capable of, what I could lose to it. Really taking my worth and my value out of that because it was
Yes,
never in question.
that's right. That's right. Russell, you said a bit ago that when she initially told you this is what she was doing, you were supportive and you were kind of in a wait and see place. But what do you remember from those early months in terms of like a shift in the relationship between the two of you? Was it uncomfortable? Was there grief? Like what happened for you, Russell?
Okay. So I'd like to take it back to that night though, when she made that decision the next morning.
Great.
Suzanne was super fun, talkative. She was enjoying herself. We were having a great time. I don't want this to be about everything's shameful and all of that. I mean, at the end of the day, decisions were made to drink a little bit more than we should have. And what is that about? That's about that whole moderation thing, right? There's a window in there where maybe there's a lot of fun being had, et cetera, but then you drink too much and then you don't remember and stuff like that. And that's where you start to wonder, okay, is this good for me or is this not good for me? And it's not at that point. And so I think at some point or another, we all get there, especially if you drink for the buzz. And that's what I did, you know, because you're constantly chasing. That means drink more and more, right? Nothing happened at that party that not, we're not ashamed of or anything like that. It's just that when you get to, you get to a place that it's hard to walk and you can't remember, you're stumbling,
Yeah.
then it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I
Right.
shouldn't have had that much to drink. And
That was
and
too
then
much.
nursing the
Yeah.
baby.
Well, that's the whole point though, right? Is like it starts with the first drink changes your brain. And so like shouldn't have that much to drink
It does. It
starts with the
does.
first drink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you could easily just be like,
Okay,
obviously
yeah,
now
here's my
this is where I
stopping
cut it
point.
off because that's not how it's designed.
Yeah. That's not how it was designed. And
Yeah.
it is a continued like illusion of like, it's that kind of continued perfectionistic thinking of I can do it
Yes.
if I can just figure out the exact right way to do it. The set of rules and
Yes.
guidelines and
There's a better
structures.
way.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the lie, right?
Yeah.
And even if the party was fun, it still resulted in me nursing our son in a blackout. Doesn't matter
Agreed.
how fun the party was,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? That's not what I remember is that the party was fun.
Yeah. But there's a little bit, Russell, maybe there's like some protectiveness that you have about her. Yeah. And
Like the
about
memory of that party is a good one.
right.
That was a
Right. That it
fun
wasn't even like it
time.
was a
We had
bad.
a great time
Mm-hmm.
talking with our
Mm-hmm.
friends and
Totally.
socializing, but then it went a little too far with the alcohol, so that it impacted like that night with, Sue's nursing our son in a blackout. But even that, like, the only thing is we just don't know what happened, right? But that doesn't mean that you did something wrong, honey. We need to give you a
So
break there,
pretend. I love it.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But
know.
but I
Exactly.
totally respect that the
That's
next
right.
morning you were
That's
like,
right.
"That's
That's
not
right.
cool. I don't like the way that felt. I'm not gonna do that again."
So what has been, were there changes, Russell, that you then noticed over time when she was sober, like over the coming months? Like what felt different to you?
Super motivated. Like, back to her, like, core, just Sue's just being focused. She was focused on her business. She was focused on the kids, on us, on, just life in general. Found more time to work out and do things that made her happy, which I loved seeing because she's constantly giving. She's a an amazing wife and mother and constantly giving and needs those things back in return. And she was able to give that to herself by being sober and focused. Yeah. And she helped me too. Like watching her motivated me. I definitely cut back my drinking from a bottle of wine on the weekend or even when we would go out, right, honey? I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
used to share bottles of wine and we would, we would go out to dinner and not drink at all. Even going out with friends and I would join her with not drinking and it felt kind of cool.
Like you had the two of you were sharing a little something, something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was a
Mm-hmm.
good thing.
Suzanne, I want to hear about Russell's decision to stop drinking. But before we do that, what do you remember feeling different in the space between you and Russell in those early months? He's talking about really like observing a different kind of motivation in you, a different quality of energy in you. And it sounds like that was just, he was able to kind of witness that and flow with that and kind of dip into the idea of not drinking with you, even like long before he made that decision. But what felt different within your marriage when you stopped drinking?
It's so interesting because I get this question a lot. Like, okay, well, when you quit drinking, did you ask your husband to join you?
Yeah.
Or did you ask him what his thoughts were about it? I was really so focused on myself, which felt radical
Mm-hmm.
as a mom and a wife. That during that, probably that like definitely the first 6 months, I was just in like this bubble, this protective bubble of one AirPod in, reading all of the Quit Lit written by women. Like literally I want it soaked into my pores what alcohol is and what it could take from me.
The
what it could
Quit Lit.
steal.
I've never heard it called
Yes.
that. Uh-huh.
Yes. And like tell me so I felt like I had a lot of catching up to do and
Yeah.
I was like obsessed. And so during this time, like I look back and remember this is January 2020. And so, we know what came next. And so it is a blur of I really became as selfish as I could, which meant like, he's right. Like I was like, okay, what's going to make me feel good? And what do I need? And so the kids and Russell in my brain and in my mind at that point took a back seat. So I don't really, when I think about that time, I wasn't focused on really connecting with him over this yet.
Oh, but honey, you were like, hey, did you, she'd be washing the dishes. She'd look up at me when she's got an earbud in and she'd say, did you know that alcohol is the same thing that they power airplanes by? Like alcohol is ethanol. Or she'd be like, you should read this book, This Naked Mind. Like she'd be telling, but honey, you were still totally connected to us. You just had this, passion for what you were doing there. And we were giving you all the room for that.
Yeah, totally. Like it wasn't, and this hasn't happened since, and it probably won't happen again, right? That I was kind of I put myself really like first of like, yes, I want them to be okay, still connected, still showing love and all of that. But the day-to-day like task stuff, I'm like, I got to figure this out first. Like I need me to be okay. You guys need me to be okay. Like, so I got to make sure I'm okay in this thing. And so I really don't think even I talked to Russell and started being like, okay, how does my sobriety fit into our marriage? Like, how is this going to affect us as a marriage? Not just me, but like our marriage. That didn't come till later, till I really felt like very solid in my decision.
That's so important for people to hear. And I hear a couple of really important things in that. If for a listener, there's a concern about if I get sober, I don't know that I can, like maybe alcohol is part of what helps me show up for my family, keep it all going, because it quiets the things it needs to quiet, it amplifies. So what you're saying is that actually, and Russell, you're here to testify that you had an AirPod in your ear and you were learning and soaking up, but it wasn't either or. You were centering yourself in a way you hadn't before. But from where Russell stands, it was not to the exclusion of family. You still You
Well,
still
because it
felt
couldn't be,
present with
right?
them.
Like I was still the
right.
heart of
The
the
babies,
home.
the babies are
Yeah,
not
I
going to
was
be.
still the heart of the home and like the marriage making, like I was still very present here.
And then the other thing I heard was that the bigger questions about how does this change the qualities of our connectedness, those came later. That really there was a need for you to put your mask on first, as they say. Like you really needed to figure out, what does this mean inside of me? And then the second question was, what does that? And that's important too, because if somebody is teetering on sobriety, if they're sober curious, but they're worried about how it's going to impact all their relationships, that's going to be a barrier to sobriety, right? Because you're worrying about things that are not yours to manage, that are not only you, right? It also is about how Russell steps into that different dance. It's not something you can figure out all on your own.
That's right. And it will always be a question you won't know, right? And it'll always be a fear until you get there. And that is like someone has to go first. Someone has to go first. And so you can be that someone that goes first and not knowing who's going to join you, right? Like that's the gamble, but also knowing that you need to do things differently. You deserve more. You want to try this out. But like, yeah, someone has to go first. His thoughts about whether or not I should quit drinking didn't factor into it, which is pretty amazing considering his thoughts about everything factor into all of the things all the time. He's my life partner, right? And like his thoughts and feelings about everything I ask all of the time. But this one thing, I didn't even consider it.
Yeah, and it might be the time in our lives, right? Just was the right time because I didn't discourage her from it. And I still was going to executive meetings and dinners and, golf events where alcohol is always involved. Martinis at dinner, beer at golf, right? Yeah, so we wound up sort of having an agreement, and this was important to Suzanne that we be at the same level when we get together. So she preferred that I not come home after half a dozen beers, right? And just roll up into the house like everything's cool, because for her it wouldn't be. But for me, and even for me, it shouldn't have been cool because that's probably not the best thing for the family anyway, right? So I sort of got that. It took a little while. There were a few times where I might have rolled up, a few more beers deep, but usually kept it to 2 or 3. And then over time, it was like, I don't even need that, Some people have to be pushed into it if they go too far with their drinking, that, hey, this is a life change you have to make. For me, it was very much like Suzanne. It was like, okay, I've been watching her model this for a while. She's doing great. It looks good to me. I have changed things in my life to where it's just not, it's kind of like a little sidecar that comes along once in a while. So for me, I said, I need challenges. I'm not going to just make that change because, I'm going to make a change. It's because I had to challenge myself. I said, I'm going to go 1 year without alcohol and see how I feel. I'm going to not see how I feel. I'm just going to go 1 year without alcohol. That was it. I came back from a trip with my friends. We were golfing. After a couple of days being home and not having anything to drink, I said, you know what? I looked at Suze one morning and I said, I'm going to go a year without alcohol. Babe, how did that feel?
Yeah.
What was that
you're
like?
taking my job, Russell. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well,
what was that moment?
Well, leading up to that, could I talk about the boundaries really quick before we get to that? Of like this setting the boundaries of like when I had to, when I was like, oh, wait, this is going to affect my marriage, and having to set boundaries of like what actually didn't feel good about his drinking, right?
Yeah.
Because I had to get pretty specific. It couldn't just be because I didn't want to say you can't drink because that doesn't feel good, and he's not there.
I would have pushed back against that.
Yeah, he would have pushed back even if he didn't want to, even if he agreed. he would have been defensive. Like, wait,
Sure, absolutely. Because it
Yeah,
would have
and
felt it would have felt like a moralistic right,
yes,
wrong. This
yes,
is the line in the
judgment.
sand. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't want to put him in a position to defend alcohol. Like that was very important to me because I was like, that's the opposite of the thing that I want to do. And so, but then I also did have needs of like, okay, it didn't feel good when he came home after if he had like hard liquor, right? I could tell. Like I could just tell. And so, yeah, I had to figure out what felt okay. For me, it was like 2 or 3 beers, fine, And they're Amstel lights. He's a big guy. Like, okay, fine. And it was, boundaries are tricky and they can be terrifying when you don't know how to set them and yeah, it's or you never have had to or never never done it.
But what I hear really clearly is that it wasn't what you guys needed to do was move the conversation to not being about rules or it can be this much of this and this much of this. You had to, Suzanne, peel back a few layers and be able to talk to Russell about how the space between you feels. Here's how I feel when I share space with you after you have crossed a particular threshold. I feel myself shut down, pull back, whatever it was. And that you had to just kind of offer that to him as an observation and a report from your part of the world, and then let him figure out what he was going to do about it.
Yeah, and kind of an invitation to connect, right?
Sure.
Because
Oh, yeah.
to me, I'm saying like, I still want to connect with you.
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
alcohol is still in your life. It's not over here, but I
Mhm.
still want to be able to be at the same level with you. I think those are the words that I would use. Like, I want to be at the same level, like
Mhm.
lucidity wise, right?
Mhm.
Like, can we?
Energetically, just the
Yes,
and not like a higher,
energetically.
lower, better, worse, but a syncing
No,
up of the energy.
yes.
Mhm.
And like a same, because, if you're sober and someone's drunk, you just can't connect, right? And I want to be able to connect with my husband. Like, that's really important to me to be able to emotionally connect. And so, yeah, just being able to have these conversations. I also knew I had to like catch him up because he wasn't in my head in the last decades of my drinking, right? We're very good at hiding the shame that we feel around our drinking and not talking about it. So I had to let him in more of like, okay, to me, this is bigger than just a drinking, right? This felt, yeah, I just had to catch him up. And so, yeah, it was this dance that we did. And then I remember when he said, you know, I'm going to commit, and he used the word commit, which I think that always stands with me. But he said, I'm going to commit to 1 year without alcohol. And inside, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my God. Yeah, like wanting to just, and outside, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, no problem, bro.
Cool. Yeah.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Hey, you do
Knuckle.
you,
You did like a little fist
Yeah. I'm
bump.
like, yeah, fine. No big deal. And, because I was like not wanting to, I don't know,
Sure.
don't
Yeah.
get too excited and don't. And, but honey, and you saying, and this is how you kind of presented it, which I think really helped is you said, I've committed to 1 year. And when you present that to your friends, and no one's going to argue with a commitment to
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
No, that's very true. There might be a little peer pressure here or there, but when you've made a commitment, and I'm a man of my word, I take pride in that. Like I just stick to it. It's not a fight. It's not an argument. It's just no, thank you. And I, yeah, that's such a cool feeling. It really is. And I did, and you probably remember this. I carried around in my mind the picture of the martini I was going to have at the end of that 12 months. Like I did never said to her, "This is it. I'm fine, all done." I said, "I'm going to go a year, and then I'm likely going to have a drink afterward." And she knew that 9 months into it, but it wasn't long after that that I started to think, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have." But I never really shared that with her until I was getting real close. And she was probably worried that I was going to go, I did tell you I was going to go play golf and have, a handful of drinks or whatever with the guys just to celebrate. But I just never did.
Hmm.
And I still haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have a great time with them. And I love watching them celebrate. They're having a good old time, but and I'm good right where I'm at. There's no judgment. It's just, we can ride alongside each other and have a good time. And I like that.
We've touched on this, but I want to go back to it as we move towards wrapping up our conversation. What for you, Russell, you spoke at the beginning about just noticing all the different emotions that came up within you as you moved into sobriety and needing to be really patient with yourself. What was that like for you to live as a man of your word for that year, to connect differently with Suzanne for that year? What was that like?
Well, it's been a blessing. And I do owe it to her because I probably wouldn't have made that decision on my own. So thanks, honey.
You're welcome.
Things that we do now, we'd love to do more of, but now we're able to work out together when we get a chance. We're able to, bond over conversation that maybe we wouldn't have had the time for. Get more invested with the kids and our relationships with them. Having empathy that I maybe wouldn't have stayed in or stood in for very long before. It just keeps unfolding. And while there's always work in there, there's a lot of joy and there's a lot of really cool things that happen in there too, in that space.
Were there any, I guess I'm thinking about men listening or women listening. Did you do a similar deep dive like Suzanne did into the world of learning about alcohol? Like, were there particular touchstones or practices that you have had that you found helpful?
Well, have you heard of a book called The Sober Shift?
Yes. Wait.
Well, I live with the author, so I'm
true.
immersed in it. I'm immersed in it. She's talking about it all the time,
Yeah.
but
No, but that is true. He is kind of like, a guinea pig of the book. And like all of these practices that I write about and that I've lived and like the shifts and how I talk about it differently, he did. I was talking with him about this stuff first.
Right.
And so I don't think it's a coincidence. Like my brother quit drinking 4 years ago, my mom after him, and then my husband, because I did write the book kind of out loud with my family being like, hey, this is how I'm thinking about this. Yeah. What about this? Okay. Maybe we're not waiting. Maybe if we wait, we're forced. And then, all of this stuff. And so, yeah, he did get to, hear a lot about a different, it's really a perspective shift of the whole of alcohol and sobriety. And so he lived it all the time, every day.
You didn't you didn't need an AirPod in your ear,
Yes.
Russell. You just needed
It was a live show for him.
It was a live show. You had a front row seat.
Yeah, and you did ask about our love and like what has changed. Well, I can tell you this, that we commit time to intimacy on a weekly basis. It's super important to us that not get away from us, especially with 3 little kids, 2 thriving businesses,
we schedule it.
Professional careers, and kids after school stuff. And it's a busy life, but we commit to that. I will say that you take alcohol out of the equation, way less arguments, fewer arguments. And when they do happen, we know how to manage that. It doesn't end in an explosion or someone walking away all frustrated or whatever. It doesn't mean it's perfect. It just means that you give each other room to have your feelings without it being an end all be all, because those arguments get exhausting. And the only time we ever had them was with alcohol.
No drama.
Right? Because it brings out your little kid in you. And then you're like, oh, that happened,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have a kind of capacity. You have a capacity inside of each of you that helps you stay curious and empathic.
And I think also being able to count on yourself, when I was drinking, if something would, if I would get hurt or triggered or pissed off about something, not really trusting that that's actually true, and probably losing the plot a little bit if alcohol is involved, right? And then the next morning just blaming alcohol, like, well, I was drunk. When even if there was a kernel of truth in there that we could actually work on,
now
totally
you've lost
discounting. Totally discounting yourself and myself because the drama came out first, right? And so now being able to check in like, okay, there is something here. I am I am hurt by this thing and counting on myself and you, honey, to be able to work through it because it's real,
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am looking at our time. I cannot believe how quickly this conversation has gone. I feel like we just scratched the surface. But the good news is that Russell, you've been a guest on Suzanne's show. So we will make sure to spotlight those episodes. And yeah, make sure you leave us. What do you want to leave us with? And what are the resources you want to be directing us towards?
Well, I mean, definitely go get the book. The book is called The Sober Shift, A Modern Day Guide to Living an Abundant Sober Life. And all of this is covered. It really is. I kind of walk you through chapter by chapter how to do this thing. How do we shift our entire perspective on not only alcohol, but a life without it? And that includes, if your partner still drinks and really how to manage that and where that can lead. I feel always so grateful for my husband that he was not only supportive but kind of open to hearing all about it. And yeah, you can hear us talk on the Sober Mom Life podcast. Honey, you gotta come back on and we'll do an update.
Okay, sounds like
I'll
a plan.
have my people talk to your people.
Yeah, have your people talk to my people.
All right. Oh, we heard it here first.
There was a guy at the signing, our first stop on the book tour, who asked a question, and he said, do these same principles apply in your book to men as they do women? And I think it's real important to note that they absolutely do, right? They apply to all of us. And really, if you want to find a way to look at alcohol and remove it from your life, that this is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
So I just like to leave you with sober is the new Riz, and
oh yes,
check out the
10,000
Sober Shift, baby.
Yeah, you can tell we have an 11-year-old.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. The cover may be pink, but it is for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Russell, I think it's really important you said that. I think it's because it's different. There are gendered layers to this: alcohol and women, alcohol and men. So I'm glad that you named that. Well, thank you both. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne and Russell, for this honest conversation. As you may have probably guessed, I love talking to couples, and it's so powerful to hear from each of them about how this big change shaped them and then how they approached evolving together with patience, with love, with understanding. I'm here for it. For more information about Suzanne and Russell Warye, including links to episodes of The Sober Mom Life where Russell is a guest, and then also links to Suzanne's fantastic book, The Sober Shift, check out our show notes. And then next week, I have another couple for you. I'll be talking about money with Douglas and Heather Boneparth. Until next time, be well. Do you have a relationship question that you want answered on the show? Visit reimagininglove.com to send in a written or audio question. Questions can be about intimate partnerships, family relationships, friendships, you name it. If you're looking for more love and relationship content, you can find me on Instagram at dr.alexandra.solomon or visit my website, dralexandrasolomon.com, where you'll find my blog as well as the Intimate Relationships 101 e-course based off of the popular class I teach at Northwestern University. Thank you for listening, and see you next week here on Reimagining Love.